Hey, hi, howdy. Derek Parker here, back with another live mock draft. The reason I'm doing it this way is, as you can see here, we're about 5 days away from the actual draft lottery, which is super exciting, but I'm running out of time to actually do mock drafts, and I'm going to have one up hopefully within like 30 or so minutes of the actual lottery happening. So for now, we're relegated to these quicker live mocks, but they still should be fun. We're going to run a Tankathon sim, and then we're going to do the Fanspo mock draft simulator. Again, similar to last time, I'm just going to run with whatever it is. I'm going to do one spin, and we're going to use it. I'm not going to sit here and rig the system or anything like that. So, again, I'm hoping for something crazy. The last one wasn't. I think Philly jumped up a little bit. The Spurs jumped up a little bit. But other than that, there were no like really crazy jumps. So I'm hoping we get one here. Let's run it. Okay, this we can work with. This is certainly crazier. Toronto, your big winner, jumps up 6. Charlotte jumps up 1. We live with that, I guess. Houston, again, I think this is exactly what happened in the actual 24 lottery. They came in with the 9th best odds, and they jumped up 6, obviously last year grabbing Reed Shepherd. This year, they've got options. They're an interesting team, freshly eliminated from the playoffs, so that's fun. Portland, up 6. That is immensely fun. They need all the talent they can get. And then the fallers include Utah, Washington, New Orleans. The Thunder actually grabbed Philadelphia's pick at number 8. That's big. Brooklyn, just a brutal fall to 9. San Antonio goes down 2. And then we've got the typical 4, Dallas, Chicago, Hawks picking via Kings, and Spurs picking via Hawks. Okay, so we are on the clock. First overall pick, the Toronto Raptors, I believe jumped up 6 spots. And what a big jump for them, given just the state of the roster right now. It seems to me, after having traded for Brandon Ingram at the deadline of this year, that they're not necessarily planning on being at future draft lotteries. So this might be their one shot to jump up and grab a guy like Flagg, like Harper, like Ace Bailey. But this is obviously a huge jump for them just as a franchise. And obviously here they're going to draft Cooper Flagg. I mean, it makes no sense to do anything otherwise. He is a ceiling raiser, a floor raiser. He's going to be a two-way stud, probably a perennial all-star, if not a potential superstar. I mean, 6'9", he's got incredible feel for the game. He can score it. He can defend. His passing is underrated. It doesn't even matter that the Raptors' best players are forwards right now. Flagg would immediately slot in and help this team. And also, the first American top pick in some time going to Toronto, of all places, would be really, really funny. So, Cooper Flagg to the Raptors, really fun fit. Obviously, the chances of this happening in real life are a little more slim. I don't know what Toronto's actual percentage to grab number 1 is, but I know it's not great. So about 4 or 5 days out from the lottery, we at least get to make a fun pick here in putting Cooper Flagg in red and black, opposed to the white and blue that he's donned for a while now. At number 2, we have the Charlotte Hornets, who I swear just get lucky in every single mock draft I do. And number 2 is probably the most interesting pick for the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, they're a team that has LaMelo Ball as their point guard of the future, despite some injury concerns, despite some impact concerns on whether he'll be able to actually lead them to the postseason. He still is their best player, and then they've also got some ancillary pieces. Brandon Miller is obviously the biggest one. 6'9" wing, going to be a good scorer for a long time. Tejan Salone was the, I believe, number 6 pick at last year's draft. Not my favorite pick that was made. I think I'm on record saying that in my reaction video, but not a huge fan of that one. And then the rest of this roster, aside from my GOAT KJ Simpson, is a little rough. It feels far away to me personally. So in my mind, the Hornets are a team that can stand to make some wild picks. They can stand to add talent in any capacity. I don't know right now that LaMelo Ball or even Brandon Miller are necessarily worth drafting for fit, like not taking a point guard, not taking a lead guard. That's what causes me to lean the second best prospect in this draft in Dylan Harper. But before I do that, I do want to touch on one other thing, and that's VJ Edgecombe, the Baylor hybrid at 6'5", premier athleticism. He can score, he can defend, he can pass. I think he could be closer to 2 than people think. In fact, it wouldn't shock me if he was number 2 on a few teams' boards. And with the Hornets having a point guard, and with the Hornets potentially having this stereotypical 3-wing shooter in Brandon Miller, VJ Edgecombe's a tantalizing option to kind of split those two with his athleticism. He can get after it on defense. The scoring should come around. He should be able to space the floor. It's not the craziest thing in the world Now, after all that, I am going to go Dylan Harper. I think it's the correct pick here. I think the new Hornets front office has prioritized length and positional versatility. Dylan Harper obviously adds that in bounds. He's also a player who was looked at as a combo guard coming into his year with Rutgers. It seems like he shied a little bit more towards lead guard, point guard, but I don't think it's out of the question that he and LaMelo Ball could potentially thrive together in being able to do basically everything. Maybe you move LaMelo to off guard. Who knows? It's a talented pairing. You don't pass it up. You take Dylan Harper and you run. Now at 3, we have potentially the biggest winner of our mock. The Houston Rockets jumping up 6 spots, this time in a really, really good draft, with some really good prospects on the board. They were just eliminated from the NBA playoffs by the Golden State Warriors. Their offense was abysmal. Jalen Green looked rough, to put it bluntly. Amen Thompson looks to be a future star. Reed Shepherd didn't even touch the court. Alperen Şengün was fine. Not quite my postseason cup of tea, but I get it. And then they've still got all these players, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore, Jabari Smith Jr. So it feels like this potential consolidation trade is brewing where they package all these guys and go get a Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Tyler Hero, someone to bring an offensive punch to this roster because it's really, really good defensively and they feel on the brink of contention, but they're just not quite there. So with all that being said, jumping up to 3 is interesting because this could really, really help them to package it for one of those players. But it also gives them options here to just draft a really good young player in a really good young core, which is exciting. So I'm looking at about 4 to 5 prospects for Houston right now. Ace Bailey, I think, makes some sense as a potential high-scoring wing. VJ Edgecombe is hard to ignore just with his do-it-all ability. Trey Johnson would be an awesome ancillary scorer off of some of the current pieces there. Kamon Maluach is a little bit of a slept-on option for the Rockets. I think Alperen Şengün, as like probably the premier piece on this Rockets team, will be at his best with another big on the floor that can protect the rim, that can shoot threes, and while Maluach is really far away in that last department, he's going to be a nice rim runner. He's going to be able to protect the rim. He's 7'2", a legitimate 7'2", which is not teachable. And I think that next to Şengün is really interesting. Now, I will say 3 is a bit rich. And then the last player I'm considering here is Con Knipple. Knipple is a player who fits so seamlessly onto basically any roster. He can shoot the absolute crap out of the ball. He can handle it a little bit, play make some. He's good in the pick and roll. He's stingy defensively. He's got kind of that big body for a wing. He's just a player that I think could be really impactful. And with Con Knipple, he's a player that you could add, do a consolidation trade, and still hang on to him because he fits so seamlessly. So, again, number 3 is a little bit rich for him too, but those are my options. Now, when I look at this, I honestly gravitate more towards Maluach and more towards Knipple for the Rockets, meaning I don't think a trade down would be the worst thing here. Let's look at what we could do. The Jazz at number 5 are an option. They're a team that certainly would want to jump up and grab one of those players. The Washington Wizards are the same way. The Brooklyn Nets and the San Antonio Spurs are both teams that would like to jump up there and get those players. The Spurs less so, seeing as they're about to hit the go button and probably don't want to give up the win now talent that Houston wants. But the Nets are interesting. Now the Nets, you run the risk if you drop all the way to 9 that those players won't be there. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these potential trades just because we could be here a while. But if you're Houston, you're obviously looking for win now players that could help you as soon as next year in exchange for jumping down. You're not going to get a lot if you go down to 5 or 6. You could maybe land one rotational level player from either the Jazz or the Wizards. Jordan Clarkson would probably be a bit rich from the Jazz, or maybe a John Collins if you throw in a little else. I know the Wizards have like Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Middleton, a little past his prime, but could potentially still help you win. I'm going to go down to the Wizards. I feel like out of the teams here, they're the most likely who would want to be aggressive in trading up, seeing as they got a good pick last year, but in an okay draft. This is a great draft. They want to move up. They want to be aggressive. So we're going to make a trade with the Wizards. Rockets go down to 6. Wizards jump up to number 3 and are now on the clock. And now we get to do this all over again with the Washington Wizards, who I would imagine here probably consider Ace Bailey, probably VJ Edgecombe, maybe Kamon Maluach. I think that's really interesting. Alex Sarr is essentially a 7-foot wing. Kamon Maluach could play the 5 next to him. That would be an unbelievable swing for the franchise to employ 2 7-footers. And then honestly, I don't think they would be averse to looking at Jeremiah Fears in some capacity. But if you're trading up, you're doing so to nab a player that is certainly going to go in the next few picks. So I'm going to go with Edgecombe. I feel like he offers this team that star gene that it's kind of missing right now. I really see his scoring coming around. He's got the defense to make things fun with Alex Sarr behind him, Bilal Coulibaly beside him. I think in the least, Edgecombe gives the Wizards this boost of talent in general, just doing everything. But there's also the factor with Edgecombe and just so much development to be had that maybe you can mold him into something else. Maybe he can be more of a lead guard than we think right now, just based off the reps he had at Baylor. Maybe his passing comes around, maybe his creation ability, his handle tightens up. So I like Edgecombe a lot for a franchise that needs some stardom. Portland Trailblazers at number 4. They see a jump. They're a team that came on a little bit defensively late in the year. Things started to come around. I don't think that their young prospects necessarily saw some huge statistical boost. I don't know that anyone really turned the corner in a major way between Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, guys like Donovan Clingan. But in the absolute least, they showed some grit, some determination, and won some ball games. Here, I think the easy pick is Ace Bailey. This is a team that needs length pretty badly. They need perimeter prowess pretty badly. And Ace Bailey at 6'9", 6'10", on the wing, despite seeing some negative stuff with Rutgers, still has some of the highest potential in both those areas. He can fly. He projects to be able to shoot the ball well. He could very well be an offensive star hiding in plain sight, albeit a guy who probably needs to pare his game down a little bit early in the NBA before he really starts to work on-ball stuff, dribbling in general, passing, things like that. But in this Trailblazers core where you've got guys like Scoot who can facilitate, Shaedon and Anthony Simons to some degree can do that. Ace Bailey just playing off them as a wing, learning the ins and outs for a while is really, really fun. So we're going to draft Ace Bailey to the Portland Trailblazers. On the clock now are the Utah Jazz. They're a weird mix of win now and young prospects. You've got Markkanen, Collins, Sexton, Clarkson, all win now players. Then you've got guys like Taylor Hendricks, Cody Williams, Keontae George, Isaiah Collier. A few guys in there I really liked. They just haven't meshed super well as a roster. I don't know that the Jazz have necessarily shown like consistency in drafting over the last 2 to 3 years in terms of like archetypes or identity. So it makes them super, super tough to draft for. I would consider Trey Johnson. I would consider Yakuchonis. I would consider Jeremiah Fears. My gut always leans Yakuchonis here. He's a guy who can kind of moonlight as both a point guard and shooting guard, which in this core makes a lot of sense, I think, given that you've already got Isaiah Collier, you've already got Keontae George, who both kind of do those things, or at least wouldn't be horrible if Kasparas was handling the rock or playing off of them. Trey Johnson, though, I think point blank is going to be one of the best scorers in this class. And I think they have shown an affinity for grabbing scoring. I mean, the Keontae George pick was largely based on that. Maybe they thought they could develop the passing a little bit. Collier's the same way. I mean, at his core, he's a guy that's going to be able to score. I know he broke all kinds of passing records with the franchise, yada, yada, looked really good in that area. But he was a score-first guard in college. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe Johnson could immediately hit the ground running as a guy on the wing who could play off Lauri Markkanen. He could learn from guys like Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton even, just in the ways of NBA scoring, the ins and outs. I think I'm going to go Trey Johnson. This is a team that lost more games than anyone else in the NBA. You can feel that they're probably ready to offload at least some of those win-now players, so throw them into the fire next year. Let him take every shot you have, learn the ins and outs of the NBA, learn how to be impactful, potentially a la a Devin Booker, and become a star shooting guard for the next 10 years. Now, the Rockets are back on the clock here at number 6. Let's say we pick up Chris Middleton, who adds maybe a little bit of that shooting scoring punch that the team desperately needed last year, and now these picks in Malawach and Knipple that I liked so much are looking a little better at number 6 than they were at number 3. Ultimately, I'm going to go with Malawach. Like I talked about, I think his potential pairing with Schengen in that front court is just too tantalizing. In the last few years, there's been a handful of these 7-foot bigs in the lottery, and almost all of them have worked out in some capacity and are really coveted. Like the teams that have them are not letting them go by any means necessary. Cleveland's hanging on to Evan Mobley. The Thunder are hanging on to Chet. The Wizards aren't going anywhere with Sarr. Wemby's obviously in his own category, but these lengthy 7-foot centers have become a bit of a rarity. And Houston, being being a contender, this is going to be probably one of the last times they're up here in the draft. They're not even here with their own pick. It's the Suns. You might not get another chance to land a prospect like this. They're not on the free agent market much. The trade value is sky high, so I like taking a chance on a high-feel 7-foot center who can score on the interior, play good defense, and potentially shoot. Despite the Duke tape, I think he might be able to stretch the floor long-term in the NBA, so I like this pick a lot for the Rockets. Come on, Malawatch. At number 7, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, another win-now team that just didn't win games. Zion Williamson, obviously, has had some health concerns over the last several years, but when he plays, is one of one. DJ McCollum's getting up there, but still an impactful player. DeJounte Murray, again, hurt last year. Got Bruce Brown late at the deadline in that Ingram trade. Then you've got this ancillary core of Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins, Yves Missi, who I loved last year. They're a funky team who I believe could probably use some funk in the NBA draft. Knipple's a super easy fit with them. He does a lot of the same things that CJ McCollum would do, but you can never have too much shooting. You can never have too much off-ball playmaking. If they wanted to really swing for the stars, I think Fears makes sense here. My pick, though, is going to be Kasparas Jakučionis. At 6'6", I think he really toes that line between potential lead guard and off-ball wing. I really buy the shot, the passing, even off ball as a connector, a ball mover alongside guys like Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy would be really fun. I think he'd be great in this Pelicans core. If you need a lead guard who can run actions with Zion, actions with Trey Murphy, who can facilitate to them or potentially get downhill off of them, he's your guy. If you need a lengthy wing who in the long term can spot up shoot and cut and do all the things that an off-ball wing does, I think he'll be able to do that too. And maybe most importantly, he's got a little bit of star upside in all of this, which I think the Pelicans need desperately. So I'm going to draft Kasparas Jakučionis to New Orleans. The Oklahoma City Thunder are now on the clock with the 8th pick. The 76ers pick falls, conveys to Oklahoma City. Really brutal break for Philadelphia here, but a nice one for the Thunder, who are in the heat of the playoffs right now. And the world really is their oyster. I mean, you look at this roster. Shea, Ihart, Dort, Holmgren, Wiggins, Caruso, Cason Wallace, Topic, J-Dub, J-Will. They don't need anything. I mean, this team won 68 games. They don't need anything, and yet they get the 8th pick in a good draft. Knipple makes a ton of sense as a player who could play off of Shea, off of J-Dub for the next 15 years, hitting threes, running some pick and roll with Chet. Derek Queen as like a high feel front court option next to Chet makes a ton of sense to me in my brain. I don't know that defensively he fits the mold of what they look for, but they're pretty set on defense. So Jeremiah Fears to me offers a little bit of what they actually need, which is a guard that can touch the paint, consistently break down that first line of defense. Sometimes they struggle with that in the second unit, but Fears is a little bit on the project-y side in terms of what they're probably looking for. And they've already got Nikola Topic, who somewhat projects to do the same thing next year. Ultimately, I'm going to go with Carter Bryant. Arizona wing, 6'8". Now, 8 is a little bit rich for Carter Bryant, I will say, but if you watched my last heat check video, you'll know how high I am on him. I think he's destined for late lottery at minimum, maybe as high as 8, if a team really falls in love with his skill set as this lengthy wing who brings it on defense, has projectable offense with shooting, some rim running, and most importantly, I think he's high feel. It doesn't necessarily jump out in ways that it would for like a Kasparas Jakučionis, but in terms of like an elite role player or a potentially elite role player, Carter Bryant has all the tools. And I think for the Thunder who value positional versatility in general, value length, wingspan, and B, are looking to kind of backfill their roster with high field role players for the next however many years, Carter Bryant fits the mold. He gives them something they don't really have at the moment, a lengthy wing that really projects to be able to shoot the 3 ball and potentially guard 4 up to 5 a little bit, down to 3. He's really versatile, so I like this pick a lot for the Thunder. Next up are the Brooklyn Nets, who thought about a trade up but couldn't get a deal done. They wanted to hang on to Nick Claxton, wanted to hang on to Cam Johnson. I'm not absolutely in love with their options here. They're a team that could really benefit from moving up, definitely not moving down. I think the obvious option here is Jeremiah Fears. 17 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists per game for Oklahoma last year. Showed a lot of feel, a lot of touch as a 6'4" point guard, one of the youngest players in this class. He has truly immense upside. Now, he's going to need a team and an organization that can tap into that can teach him good habits, pare down the shot selection. But I think the Nets, as this kind of blank slate under Jordy Fernandez, can be just that. So Jeremiah Fears to the Nets, one of my favorite fits in this draft. On the clock at number 10 are the San Antonio Spurs, the first of 2 late lottery selections. And I don't need to think about this too much. Knipple is the pick. To this point, I really don't know where Knipple's range in this draft is. There could be some teams who, like me, value him as high as that fringe top 5, maybe with the 5th, 6th, 7th pick. His feel is great. He adds things that every single NBA team needs. But there's also teams that might see a shorter wingspan. He's probably smaller than listed at 6'7", the athleticism concerns, and maybe value him towards the late lottery. Regardless, the Spurs here get a player who would absolutely thrive off Victor Wembanyama. I mean, match made in heaven in every way. He can stroke it from beyond the arc. He's a good connective passer who doesn't make mistakes very often. And maybe most importantly, he can putter around with a pretty decent handle and run plays out of the pick and roll, which with Victor Wembanyama, to have a guy who can both play as an off-ball wing, but also moonlight as a ball handler who can get you some touch passes around the rim or score himself, that's invaluable. Knipple is a perfect fit with the Spurs, one that I love. On the clock are the Dallas Mavericks with the number 11 pick. Every time I make a pick for Dallas, I just get sad. It's impossible not to get sad. I mean, Anthony Davis, Kyrie, Clay, PJ, it's fine. It's a fine win now core. It's probably going to win a decent amount of games next year, but just, I don't know. Just sad. Not going to think about it too much. I think they need backcourt help. Kyrie, who knows how long he's set to be out now. Their front court is obviously there with Davis, Gafford. You got Derek Lively still. They need backcourt help. And I think a player who could potentially help as soon as next year, as well as cover a few different areas, is Jace Richardson. I don't think he's a perfect point guard. I don't think he's a perfect shooting guard, but he's a nice blend of both. He plays a mistake-free game, immensely high feel, one of the highest field players in this class. One who could probably stand to learn a lot from a guy like Kyrie Irving. I like this pick for Dallas, despite not loving anything about Dallas. At number 12, we have the Bulls on the clock. Really interesting team. One that desperately needs to jump up to the top 4 because they need talent in general, having hit the reset button pretty recently. I don't hate their options here. I would consider Derek Queen, Asa Newell. Yegor Demon would be a really fun swing, albeit one they a little bit took last year with Matas Buzelis. Esengwe, to me, makes a lot of sense if you're a team that needs talent in general. As a wing with the standing reach of a center who can do all these things. He's athletic, he's got some feel, he's got the production. Esengwe makes sense almost everywhere, but is a huge project. It was unpopular last time, and it would be unpopular this time, but Traore, I would still consider here for the Bulls. Guys like Sorber and Neat Clifford are just good prospects in general that I could get behind in the late lottery. I'm going to go with Derek Queen, though. The Bulls, to me, just need upside picks in general, and I think Queen is the best available right now. 6'10" big whose game thrives off feel, craft, pace, positioning, things like that. He's a dominant interior force, projects to get better in the mid to long range, and despite some defensive concerns, can still sometimes make a difference on that end. He might be the most polarizing, most volatile player in this class. I mean, he could be a future all-star. He could be a player who struggles to see the court. His range is that wide. Now, again, for a player like Derek Queen, who is a little bit of the same mold as a Domantas Sabonis, an Alperen Şengün, I think he's going to struggle to protect the rim. But for the Bulls, I like this pick because Matas Buzelis, as that really lengthy wing 3-4 hybrid, can help him in that area, help to protect the rim. And you can kind of feel him out, find out what he is in the first few years, seeing as this rebuild is so fresh. So I like this pick a lot for Chicago, despite some better options being off the board already. At number 13, we have the Atlanta Hawks. Picking, I believe, via the Kings pick. You could go with a front court change for this team, which I like, given they've used Clint Capella the same way for several years. You've got Asa Newell, Colin Murray-Boyles, a fit I am not shy about liking, Thomas Sorber. You could go with a massive upside swing, Yegor Demon, maybe even Ben Saraf on the wing as a guy who can do a lot of different things with the ball in his hands, projects to maybe get better as an off-ball player too, high feel. Ultimately, I think I'll go Esengwe. Last year, everybody was clamoring for them to take Alex Sarr. They prioritized the wing player in Zachary Riza-Shea. I think it worked out. And here they get a player who's a little bit of a hybrid of both. He shades a little bit more towards true four, just being immensely long, and he's as much as a project as both of those guys, but he could be really, really good, dude. And it won't take much given how long he is. He's a decent athlete. He's shown some feel. His shooting numbers aren't abysmal. His scoring numbers in general aren't abysmal. His stocks haven't been bad. If a few of those things pan out, he's a good role player. If a few more pan out, he's maybe a hyper role player. And if a lot of stuff pans out for Noah Esengwe, he's a potential star. I like that bet a lot for the Atlanta Hawks, who have a little bit of an identity crisis right now. So Noah Esengwe, French wing for Atlanta. And finally at number 14, we have the San Antonio Spurs back on the clock, this time via Atlanta. They've already left with Knippel, which is great because that gives me the leeway to draft a front court player and not have Spurs fans yell at me, which is what I want to do initially anyway. Wembanyama's obviously the centerpiece of the team, but you've also got Harry B playing off him. You've got Jeremy Sohan, a player I liked a lot. I just feel like the Spurs could stand to add a versatile front court piece alongside Wembanyama. Maybe that could play the 5 in his absence. Maybe he could play the 4 next to him. Maybe he could play the 5 next to him, as Wemby basically can play on the perimeter at all times. Asa Newell could potentially be that player. I think Colin Murray-Boyles is a phenomenal fit who could potentially play make next to him, be really stingy on defense next to him, and could come around on offense. And do you really need the shooting when, again, Wembanyama plays on the wing, takes threes at a high volume? I don't necessarily think so. Thomas Swarber could absolutely be that player. I just feel too good at the end of the day about CMB's fit next to Victor Wembanyama. Sure, he's an undersized big. Does that matter given you've got 7'5" Victor Wembanyama behind you? Not really. He's a strong interior force who's got a little bit of dribble drive to his game. He can be a little bit of that high post central hub with some of the playmaking. He can rebound. He's one of the best defenders in this class as a guy who can size up. He can size down. He's just a really, really versatile add to this Spurs team, especially given they've already got a perimeter boost in Knippel earlier in the draft. So rounding out the lottery was Colin Murray-Boyles. And here is the final. Cooper Flagg won to the Raptors. Harper goes to the Charlotte Hornets at number 2. The Wizards trade up a few picks, grab VJ Edgecombe, 3rd. Ace Bailey to the Portland Trailblazers, Trey Johnson to the Utah Jazz. The Rockets jump up to number 3, trade back down to number 6, grab a vet in maybe a Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon, and they also get a front court pairing for Alperen Şengün, come on Malawach. The Pelicans get fun combo guard wing Kasparas Jakučionis. Thunder take a big shot on Carter Bryant. Nets get a huge swing pick in Jeremiah Fears. The Spurs luck out and get Knippel falling to number 10. The Mavs get Jason Richardson's son Jace Richardson, fun combo guard. Bulls get a huge swing in Queen. Hawks get a huge swing in Esengwe. And the Spurs take the ever-talented South Carolina forward Colin Murray-Boyles. I like it. I really do. I don't have a ton of qualms. I really do feel pretty good about it. I feel like we made a lot of NBA teams better. So yeah, that's it. My second live mock draft. Potentially the last one, given the lottery again is in 4 to 5 days. Again, I'll have a mock draft up hopefully really, really soon after the lottery with more thought out, processed picks. And then I'll continue with the Heat Check series as always. I think we've got more than like a lottery's amount of prospects up now. I think we're at like 15 or 16 maybe. So, and yeah, that's it. The next time you see me, the draft lottery will officially be set. I'm super excited for it. We'll see you next time.